Good morning, my name is Nicoletta, and I'm a Vice President here at Summit Security Services. Today I'll be hosting our monthly segment called the InfoGuard Domestic Terror Watch. As stated last month, the purpose of this segment is to consolidate terror-related events that occurred over the last month into one forum to present to our viewers. Many of our viewers may have seen some of these stories on their local news, but we hope that by consolidating the information that we can paint a clearer picture of the growing threat of terrorism domestically. In last month's segment, we reviewed Representative Peter King's congressional hearing on Muslim radicalization as the root cause of homegrown Islamic terrorism. The hearing sparked debate from both sides of the aisle, but as Representative King stated, the hearings were informative and educational, and could help provide information to protect America from a future terrorist attack. We also covered the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper's testimony to the Senate Committee of Armed Services on the Worldwide Threat Assessment. One of the most crucial takeaways from Mr. Clapper's testimony was the U.S. intelligence community's belief that Al-Qaeda was still pursuing new attack methodologies while attempting to recruit new members living in the West. I believe this is as clear a statement as there could be about the growing threat of domestic terrorism. Our first report this month takes us back to Capitol Hill to look at a U.S. congressional panel's examination of the current unrest in the Middle East and North Africa and its relationship to new terror threats. The panel was put together by the Counterterrorism and Intelligence Subcommittee, as many Americans have become concerned about what the current mass uprisings mean for our current relationships in the region. Although many of these countries, such as Egypt, were clearly not democracies before the uprising, the countries were still considered allies in the war on terror. Several security experts who testified during the panel stated that Al-Qaeda has been almost irrelevant during these uprisings. The fall of dictators in the region will certainly cause Al-Qaeda to lose a powerful recruiting tool, as Al-Qaeda typically attempts to appeal to young people in fighting against what they state are corrupt governments. Despite these promising facts, we should not lose sight that the new governments in these countries, although democratic, may not be consistent with our policy in the region. As this situation continues to unfold, we will attempt to keep our viewers abreast of the situation and impact it will have here in the United States. In other international news that affects the home front, an Associated Press story on April 15th released details of the detention of Umar Patek, one of the bomb makers in the 2002 Bali nightclub bombings. Patek, who had a $1 million American bounty on his head, was detained by Pakistani intelligence agents back in January, but the story was just released this last week. Patek was hiding in Pakistan and was planning to travel to northern Afghanistan before his capture. Patek was traveling with two French militants who were also detained in the same operation. The arrest demonstrates the Afghanistan-Pakistan region's continued draw for militants planning attacks against Western targets. In local news, a string of emails threatening violence against school buses, New York State offices, and the legislature were found not to be credible. This report came after the Education Department had advised school districts of potential attacks against school buses. The Education Department told school districts to be vigilant and report any suspicious activity. Some of the school districts then immediately posted warnings and advisory messages to district residents. The State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services are allowing law enforcement authorities to continue to investigate the threats, but do not believe they should be considered credible. Despite the threats proving not credible, the incident demonstrated the ability of state agencies to react to potential violence. Our last report covers the New York Police Department's Securing the City drill that took place from 4 to 8 April. The drill was set to test the NYPD's ability to stop a radiological device before it entered New York City. The NYPD was able to stop all potential dirty bomb before they entered the city, as well as capture 9 terrorist role players who were attempting to smuggle materials into the city from the surrounding counties. The Department of Homeland Security will provide the final analysis of the NYPD's performance, but Department spokesman Paul Brown reported that initially it appears to have gone very well, with good communication among participants and a high success rate. The Security of the City program was under review for possible budget cuts during Washington's budget negotiation 2 weeks ago, but it appears that the program will continue to receive its funding. Other cuts hit the Homeland Security program called the Urban Area Security Initiative, which lost almost 20% of its budget. The program funds police and anti-terror activities in the highest risk cities, including New York City. The cuts will take the program from its 2010 budget of $887 million to $725 million. New York City will still receive all $18.5 million it requires to run the successful Security of the City program. That's all we have for this month's segment of the InfraGard Domestic Terror Watch. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next month.